I'm utterly fascinated with YouTube. I mean, it's the one phenomenon that's come out since I wrote Convergence Culture that I most wanted to see included in the book. But one of the things I've argued in my blog is that YouTube represents the modern vaudeville. That vaudeville at the turn of the last century, or the turn of the century before the last century, was a space where all kinds of different things in the culture were brought together in short, highly sensational acts that they were designed so that you left them and wanted to applaud very vigorously because you saw something that blew you away. You hit a wow climax. The YouTube stuff is every bit as eclectic, every bit as mixed in its content. It comes from everywhere. Everything in our culture is sucked through YouTube, but the stuff that gets passed along, that gets shared, is stuff that just absolutely wows us, and then we immediately want to pass it along to someone else. And YouTube would not have functioned without MySpace and Blogger as ways of sharing that media. And so the aesthetics of YouTube right now are being shaped by what will people want to pass along.
What I think made YouTube successful, there's a couple elements. One is timing. There were sites that offered video before YouTube came along, but the real key thing you have to look at is broadband penetration, and it really hit a critical mass in the 2004-2005 timeframe, and that's right when YouTube came on board. One of the other key parts is that it fit into the social computing ecosystem, and what I mean by that is that you can actually post a video from YouTube on your blog, on your MySpace profile, rather than maintain ownership and control over the content posted on that site, which a lot of mainstream companies would have done in that same scenario. YouTube set it free and said put it anywhere you want, and I think that really created this really open grassroots environment that made it so successful.
The social network on YouTube itself is mostly for flaming. The social network that matters is where that YouTube gets embedded in someone's blog, when it gets put on a MySpace page, when it gets passed along as a link. All kinds of social networking takes place around YouTube. YouTube would not work the way it does without social networks. But I would say the least interesting social network per se is the one that's through YouTube's site, where the content is often homophobic, racist, sexist, mean-spirited. It's not a community. It's a place where people go to bash each other. But the richness comes when communities take that stuff up and use it in other contexts, in other spaces.